It's episode 100
Woo.
of Frogs Insider right now. Hey, Frog fans, welcome into another episode of Frogs Insider presented by the Flying T Club. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Melissa Treebwasser. Episode 100, Melissa.
Wow.
We have hit the triple digits.
Today was quite the day for milestones, Jamie.
It sure was.
It's a good day to get 100.
Milestone Sunday, we're going to call it.
Yeah.
Very,
that's what all the kids are calling it.
Obviously. We're nothing if not up to the times.
Yeah.
With what the children are saying. Big thanks to the Flying T Club for being the presenting sponsor of this show still, and despite the intro there. Flying T Club is TCU's NIL collective. You can go to flyingtclub.com and see all of the ways that you can get involved, whether that's an individual donation, a corporate partnership, seeing the nonprofits that they partner with across Fort Worth and getting in touch with some of those groups. They sponsor over 110 TCU student athletes. They are TCU's only NIL collective, and they are a fantastic organization. It's a tax write-off to make a gift, and you get frog points. You get priority points through the Frog Club for making an NIL donation to the Flying T Club. So flyingtclub.com is where you can go to learn more about TCU's NIL collective. A big thank you to Dave Campbell's Texas Football. We are a part of the Republic of Football Network. You can search Republic of Football wherever you get your podcasts and find the Republic of Football stream, which has our show and a show for every D1 football program in the state of Texas, all 13 of them right there in one feed. You'll be the smartest Texas football fan of all time if you listen to all of those shows.
True.
Unless you listen to Gambling Gauchos and Between Two Bears, and then you might be moderate IQ Texas football fan. No, love those guys. Love that they're part of the network as well. You can find that at Republic of Football Network, wherever you get your shows. And if you just want the TCU content, if that's too much with the Republic of Football Network, we get it. And we have our own feed. Just search Frogs Insider wherever you get your podcasts. Go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, and you'll get loads of content over there that is not in the Republic of Football Network feed, both in the Frogs Insider Spotify feed and on the YouTube channel. And speaking of the YouTube channel, Melissa, we're over 1,200 followers and subscribers, which is really great. Love everybody that's signed up over there. And I spent the majority of my bye week Saturday clipping and editing for the Horned Frog Flashbacks first episode, The Immaculate Deflection. We've got the script nailed down. Exciting. We pulled a lot of footage yesterday, so I'm excited with how that's coming together. Excited to give that to the people on December 1st over on the YouTube channel. So if you want to get ahead of the game, head over to the Frogs Insider YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You'll see post-game press conferences for pretty much every sport at this point. You'll see player interviews. You'll see the podcast. You'll see game highlights. You'll see a bunch of different stuff over there at the YouTube channel. Melissa, we're going to talk a lot about hoops on this episode. We're going to talk a lot about around the Big 12 football wise, because obviously TCU had a bye week. They did not play football on Saturday. But first, let's
soccer
update.
Too.
Yes.
We'll talk some NCAA soccer.
We are going to talk a little NCAA soccer. But first, let's talk about this payoff, because we have both found our repercussions, I guess, for success, our consequences for thriving, if you will.
No good deed goes unpunished.
The salt chip challenge that you were doing has arrived.
It's here.
It is in your possession. Mm-hmm. It made it through customs all the way from Germany.
Somehow.
Pretty great. So you have that, and I believe the plan is for you to do that post-game after Arizona. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a live stream, post-game recap situation over on the YouTube channel, and you can just knock out that chip.
I bowed out tonight because we record late for me, and I'm afraid of what this is going to do to my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
ate
a late
morning.
dinner.
Early morning for a teacher.
Early morning for a teacher. So I bowed out of doing this on StreamYard, but I think the payoff of doing it as my final act in Amon G. Carter Stadium this season feels appropriate.
It really does.
Here's hoping that's the only salty that we're feeling Saturday early evening.
Hopefully. So you're doing the salt chip challenge tentatively after the Arizona game. The mustache won the poll that you placed on Twitter.
Shockingly.
So mustache is coming y'all's way on my face, which just remember, if you voted for it, that you voted for it when you see it. Okay? But Melissa, let's talk about timing.
Okay.
For that, because I've been debating, do I just knock it out? Do I just shave it this week and I keep it? Like, how long am I expected to keep said mustache, and when should I have said mustache? Because initially I think we talked about maybe just do it over the bowl game, like while you're at the bowl game. Is that too far out for a payoff of this nature? And frankly, too close to the holidays and family photos for a mustache.
I also feel like we're going to hit another milestone once you drop your flashback series too. So, I mean, we may have to do a new thing by then. This would be my vote in this. You have to have a mustache to cover a minimum of one TCU sporting event, and I think maybe like I'm trying to think of the timing of all of this. It'd be great like if you had to do like a basketball football combo.
Okay.
I could see that being a thing. Or do we just shave, like just make you shave after I eat the chip and just do it right there in the stadium?
I'm not gonna shave my face at TCU. I'm not leaving that hair all over everywhere, or just trying to clean up a mess like that. But here's what we'll do. Let's look at the schedule really quick, because I think we can resolve this pretty quickly, because TCU does have a home football game this Saturday.
True.
And then let's see, TCU men's basketball plays.
It's Tuesday for the men, Thursday for the women, Saturday for football.
So they play Tuesday, and then they don't play again. Oh, then they're out of town for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
The women play Sunday, I believe.
I think Thursday is the final of their homestand.
Let's check.
Oh no, they do play Sunday. They play Idaho State.
Thursday at noon, and then Idaho State on that Sunday, the 24th.
Yeah.
Should I just have a mustache this week and run it through next Sunday?
Yeah. I think we do it. I think you show up to the TCU men's basketball game Tuesday night with the stash. Okay. I
will show up to the TCU men's basketball game Tuesday night with a mustache, and I will have that mustache through Sunday evening, the TCU Idaho State women's basketball game.
This is outstanding work. I really hope that I'm trying to think of who in a basketball press conference would be most offended by Jamie Dixon's going to say something 100%. Mark Campbell's probably also
both coaches
going to
say something.
I think, I think Madison Connor would have a burn for you. She's very quietly pretty funny.
Look, you know who's going to cook me is Frankie Collins.
Oh God, I hope so.
If Frankie's post game, I'm catching heat. I'm catching heat from him.
You're getting cooked. You're getting cooked no matter what. Like I don't.
And you know why? It's because I asked him about free throws after that last game against Texas State. I asked the free throw question after they missed 17 free throws in that game, and he said I knew someone was going to ask about that, and then I'm going to roll in there on Tuesday with a mustache.
And you're gonna say I knew someone was going to ask about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be great. But again, we're here for the people. You're going to wear a mustache for several days. I'm going to eat a chip that's likely to make me vomit and keep me from sleeping for a night. I don't know that it's equitable.
No.
I think yours is worse, is what I'm saying. I think yours is worse. Yeah, no, I'll fully
altering
admit
my
that.
appearance for a week. Yeah.
Well, and you have to. I mean, we'll see. I've seen some mustache pictures. It's not a bad look for you. I think you can pull it off.
But that was. I mean, that was. We did rock mustaches for my bachelor party, but that was 2011. I mean, we're talking
also Vegas, So
Vegas in 2011. We're talking like 45 pounds ago or something like that. So my goodness.
Hey, you've been working hard. Don't sell yourself short.
It's true. I'm closer to that weight than my peak weight now. So let's.
Hey, that's what we like to see.
Let's go. You know what else you like to see, Melissa?
Oh, good translation.
Thank you.
Good segue.
TCU women's basketball 76. Number 13, NC State 73. The Horned Frogs get their first ranked win in 3 seasons, their first win over a top 15 team in 7 seasons. Mark Campbell's first ranked win ever in his career as a head coach. Sedona Prince, 31 points, 16 rebounds, 2 blocks. Haley Van Lith, her first career points and assists, double-double with 18 points and 10 assists. The Frogs took down a very good very good NC State team on Sunday afternoon at Schollmeyer in front of a smaller but loud and rowdy crowd that I thought showed up. Showed up pretty well. First takeaways from this win for the Frogs to move them to 4-0.
I mean, to me, the number one thing I take out of this is the fact that they shot the ball very poorly.
Yes.
Especially from behind the arc. This was their lowest attempts, 3-point attempts of the season so far. They did not shoot the ball well. They hit some timely buckets, but the fact that they shot as poorly as they did, they dealt with a just extraordinary performance by NC State's superstar guard on the other end, and they found a way to win, and they gutted it out. And you know, I was thinking about this earlier this afternoon. You know, and the men are gonna have to shoot the ball well to win against upper tier opponents. Mm-hmm. The women today proved that they can win no matter if they're shooting the ball well from outside or not. I don't expect them to have. They've already had 2 of their 4 games. They've shot well below what we anticipate their average to be, but they've won both of those games. And Mark Campbell still has a lot of confidence. This is the best shooting team in the country. I mean, we've certainly seen glimpses of that this season. So as they grow, as they get a little bit more consistent in that aspect, I think the sky's the limit for this group. So I loved just that they didn't quit shooting. They just were more intentional with the types of shots that they hunted out, and they got to the paint. You know, when your outside shot's not falling, get to the paint, get to the free throw line, and they were exceptional finishing near the rim for most of the afternoon too.
They really were. I mean, when you have, you know, I went back and I clipped all of Sedona Prince's baskets between the game and us recording this, and that's going up on Instagram this evening, and then it'll be other places on Monday. The way that Sedona Prince is a mismatch, not just for this NC State team, but is going to be a mismatch moving forward. It's not just limited to the fact that when she has the ball with at least 1 foot in the paint, she's likely going to score and or get fouled. But she showed some versatility offensively tonight, not just with 2 or 3 different post moves, but with the mid-range jump shot from both baselines. She's had probably like an 18, 19 footer just inside the 3-point arc near the beginning of the game. She hit a couple from the nail as well. Like, she showed on Sunday that her scoring ability is moving further and further away from the basket, and that impacted this game late. We talked about this as it was happening or right after it happened. TCU has a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter. They are cruising, and then NC State, because they're a fantastic basketball team, starts to chip away. And with less than 20 seconds left in the game, the Frogs are leading 74-73. Prince is spaced. They're going 5 out. And because she's hit a couple of mid-range shots, because she's a threat to shoot the ball, her defender had to follow her out of the paint. That opens up the lane for Taylor Bigby, who gives a 1-2 Euro step, hits a little floater with nobody around her because the center had been pulled out of the paint to cover Sedona. And that ends up being kind of the game-clinching basket for the Frogs with about 8 seconds left is when she hit that floater. So Sedona Prince's offense was great on Sunday because she scored 31 points to start there. That's really great. But her influence on the game, even when she didn't have the ball in her hands, is a reason that I think TCU's offense is going to continue to be successful this year, even when the 3-point shots aren't falling.
Well, and when you could run a 2-man game with someone as talented as Haley Van Lith and someone as much of a mismatch as Sedona Prince, it opens up so many looks for other players too. On that particular play, Haley was the one that fed Taylor, drew the defense, got the second defender to step in. They have to recover quickly to close out on Taylor, who's hit a couple of threes in the game, and then she uses that closeout to get right by her defender with 1 step, and like you said, had that great finish in the paint. When you think about when all things are clicking for this team, I mean, they are almost unguardable. And we've heard Haley say this a couple of times. We heard Sedona say it today. Madison Connor has said it. There's just so many different things they can do. They can run a 2-man game with almost any combination of players on that roster, which is really, really incredible. Yeah. We saw the 2-man game between 2 guards. Obviously with Sedona, especially when she's hit. I'm sorry, Bauer's absolutely losing his mind outside because of course he is. Dog hasn't barked all day, and now all of a sudden it's like, we're probably under attack. I have no idea. But when you can run that guard to guard action in that too, and you have a shooter like Madison Connor, you have another real big mismatch in Taylor Bigby, who, can kind of plays that stretch 4 role, but is really more of a forward. It just opens up so many opportunities. And if we can get a game where Madison's shots are falling, and Haley, who had a tough shooting day to day but impacted the game in so many other ways, her shots are falling, and then Sedona is just kind of being her double self. Like, this is what I'm hoping for by the time we get to South Carolina and Notre Dame, right? Is that we get to see this team operating on all cylinders. And it's something they talked about in the post game, is that they're 4 games in. Mm-hmm. And as good as their chemistry is right now, they have so much to learn about each other and where each other are going to be on the floor, and where, how to feed each other the ball. Like, you're hoping that as they continue to play this season and get through this preseason, that they are really starting to figure out how to operate at the highest level possible on the offensive end of the floor. And with the level of talent on this team, there's no reason to think that they won't.
Yeah, I mean, Madison Connor went 2 of 8 from 3-point range. She's not going to shoot 25% from 3 for the most of the year. Haley went 1 of 7 from 3. So those two, who are normally very good 3-point shooters, went 3 of 15 from 3-point range today. And TCU won. We're talking about this after a win. Haley took 24 shots. She missed some bunnies. She missed some floaters. She missed a couple threes.
Yeah. She forced it a little bit down the stretch.
Couple times.
But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
You want your elite players taking shots in high leverage moments, right? And so, I have no quality. She had an open 3 that could have iced the game about a minute and a half earlier than it did. That's the one that stands out. But this is a team where, and you talk about missing shots. Haley could have had probably 15 assists today if players were knocking other shots down. So this is a double-double that comes on a night where TCU's not shooting the ball well. They're grinding it out on defense. And shout out, we haven't talked about Donovan Hunter yet. She has been so good this season, but her defense, I think, has been really noticeable, both on the perimeter and when the player she's defending gets in the paint. She's so good at keeping her base and keeping her feet on the ground, arms straight up in the air. She forced a couple turnovers in the paint, whether it's travel, shot clock violation against Texas State. She forced another travel and a couple of really tough shots in the paint for NC State guards on Sunday. She's not maybe having the offensive impact that she did at Oregon State last year from a scoring perspective. She had 5 assists today, but her defense and her passing as a kind of true point guard for this team have been something that I think will continue to see pay off down the road, just because eventually these defense, we talk about gravity when we talk about basketball all the time, and eventually all of that gravity flowing towards Sedona, flowing towards Haley, it's going to leave things open for Donovan, for Taylor, and for Madison. We've seen that a little bit here in the first 4 games of the season, and I think we'll see it more and more moving on.
Yeah, and I think, you talk about Donovan's defense was outstanding. Taylor had a great defensive game as well. Una Jovanovic and Agnes Eminopu didn't get a ton of run. It was a very short rotation. Agnes, I think, as she gets back to full conditioning, is going to be an impactful part of this team. But they came in off the bench and they made plays too, especially on the defensive end. And I love listening to Haley kind of break it down post-game, talking about, we knew NC State was a very one-on-one driven team, is that they like to break people down off the dribble. They like to create these mismatch opportunities. And so, what she says, we just needed to force them to take bad shots and then crash the boards. They dominated the rebounding effort. I mean, had a great rebounding game. And they forced a lot of tough shots. Now, credit to NC State, they made a lot of tough shots, but at the end of the day, I think that took a toll on them, and we saw TCU get out to that great lead, and then it took an outstanding performance by a former, Final Four most outstanding player to keep them and get them back into it. But every time NC State landed a punch, TCU countered, and that's exciting to see with the team that is old but is new. To see them in that big moment really stand up and deliver with like the weight of the world and all the bright lights on their shoulders.
Yes, and shout out to Isaiah James. She had apparently been getting fluids, like 3 bags of fluids earlier in the day. She was sick, so she did not start for NC State. She still finished with 27 points on 10 of 18 shooting, including 5 threes, 5 rebounds, and a couple of assists as well. She was all over the place, and she had a very good look at the end of the game that would have tied it and forced overtime, but she rimmed out. Prince came down with the rebound, and TCU came away with the victory. With the win, TCU is 4-0. They're probably going to be ranked on Monday when the AP poll comes out. NC State falls to 2-2, but their 2 losses are now to TCU, who will be ranked, and the number 1 team overall, South Carolina, who TCU plays here on December 8th. South Carolina beat this NC State team 71-57 about a week ago. And you think about the poor shooting that TCU had, some of just being out of sync offensively. It's going to take, obviously, beating the number 1, like playing the number 1 team in the country, it's going to take near perfect game, if not a perfect game. But you have to think that if TCU can even shoot their averages when that NC State team or when that South Carolina game rolls around, they're going to have a pretty good shot. They're going to be in the thick of things against Dawn Staley and that bunch over at Dickey's.
And that's what you want to see. You know, I'm not pulling back from my, Sweet 16 or bust. I think this team has the pieces. They do things well. I want to see them be competitive against South Carolina. I want to see them win. I think they can. I don't think South Carolina's going undefeated this year. Why not have TCU be the first to hang an L on them? I'm assuming by that they would be the first. But yeah, but like you said, I think it's going to take a perfect game. Before we move on, I want to talk about Mark Campbell, Jamie.
Yeah, that's it.
So for so many reasons, I have such admiration for this man as a coach, as a person, as a tactician, but mostly as just a builder. He is an absolute community chemistry just builder overall in general. And there's a couple of moments that I want to talk about that happened today that really kind of, to me, emphasize that. Number 1, Sedona Prince does not pick up a single foul in the first half, but picks up 3 quick fouls in the third quarter. And, Campbell kind of looks at her, like kind of getting ready to give the whistle and pull her out of the game. She waves him off and is like, no, I'm fine. He trusts her. He leaves her in. She picks up her 4th foul midway about
5 minutes left.
About 5 minutes left, in the 4th quarter. And same thing, Campbell looks at her. She waves him off. She says, I'm good. He leaves her in. Sedona Prince played all 40 minutes today. She's the only player, I think, for either team that played the entirety of the game, and just, obviously was crucial to TCU's effort. I asked him after the game about that, and, he said, listen, like, I've known Sedona for a long time. I have that faith in her. I have to trust and believe that she's a veteran enough player that she's not going to make a mistake, not going to pick up a silly foul. She knows we need her out there. And that's the thing, we need her out there. So yeah, it's a tough decision. Do you pull a player with their 4th foul, give them a minute to catch their breath, whatever? Do you leave her? And he left her, and she rewarded him by, I think she scored the next 4 straight points for TCU, or 5 points. Had the and 1 finish. And she said after the game, like his faith in me in that moment makes sure that I'm going to do my job. I'm not going to let him down. Second thing, Mark Campbell. Haley Van Lith set a career high for assists 1 game ago. She broke her own career high for assists today, and TCU women's basketball posted a great video on social media of her reacting to, for the first time in her career, getting that double-double with assists and points, and seeing what it's meant to Haley Van Lith and how he's unlocked her, not just as a basketball player, not just as a scorer, but as a playmaker. She talked about this in the post-game as well. You can see, listen, none of us want to live through playing for Kim Mulkey, I'm sure. Like, it has got to do a number on your, mental, emotional, and physical health. And, like, to this day, JB, we are getting comments on anything we post about Haley Van Lith of people still talking about her getting cooked by Caitlin Clark. And what they don't want to talk about is, A, it's Caitlin Clark. B, you talk about girls getting fluids day of the game. Haley was super, super sick before that game, too, with getting fluids. And Kim Mulkey never even switched, like just hung her out to dry at that point, which says everything you need to know. But Haley got super emotional in the post game in the locker room, cried. Like a heaving sob there, because you could tell how much it means to her to see the fullness of her ability as a basketball player being brought to light. And Mark Campbell has unlocked that for her, and she's playing with so much joy, and it's really fun to see. And the third thing, Mark Campbell has come to us after every post game and said, ask us who did the scout. And you brought it up today, and I don't know that you anticipated getting this kind of response.
I did
but
not.
He had to stop. He got so emotional talking about Javier Lopez, and this is a guy who's been on staffs with him for 11 years. And this was a huge opportunity for him to do the scout for this game. And, you could just see the pride and the love that Campbell has for this guy, this coach, and just like to see him do a scout that was obviously so well done. They had such a great game plan for this game. Everyone was on the same page with it. They executed at a high level. They got, I mean, one of the biggest wins in TCU program history and in recent history for sure. And he stopped. He got very emotional. He paused for, I mean, it had to have been a solid 30 seconds. He had to just kind of take a moment, almost ended the press conference. And then we quickly reminded him about, who's got coming up next. And that brought the emotion in check. But it's just really cool to see somebody who is so authentic, who this team talks about love and respect and how much joy they have and love they have for each other, how unselfish they play. They lead the country in assists. It's very obvious that starts at the top. That starts with Mark Campbell. And to bring all of these big personalities, a lot of these superstar players, women who have played at the highest level, who are used to being, the person on their team, and getting them to buy in at this point to get a win like they did on Sunday, that speaks a lot to Mark Campbell and what a special coach he is and what special people he brings around him in his program. So I am absolutely blown away by getting to cover him in person. I've loved every interaction I've had with him. He's a sharp basketball mind, but he's a really outstanding person, and it's a lot of fun to have that leading this program with such an opportunity to make this a national program.
I mean, you talk about hires, and you talk about how much criticism, frankly, athletic directors get when they don't make a right football hire, or when the football team's not winning. That people like to look at the AD and like, well, why did you hire this guy? But being an athletic director is so much more than just hiring football coaches. It is top to bottom. How are you handling every single program under your care? And I've said it on the show before. I think that when you look at the full resume, when you look at the full CV of Jeremiah Zanotti at TCU, he's made at the least solid hires across the board. Sonny Dykes, for the struggles that we've seen the last 2 years, unlocked something in a talented roster in 2022 in a way that got them to the college football playoff. We've seen them playing much more consistently good football the last month or so of this season now. Kirk Sarlos, 2 Big 12 championships and a College World Series appearance in his first 3 years. Mark Campbell, Jason Williams. You've got Eric Bell with soccer.
Keeping Eric Bell, keeping Dave Roditi. They hired they started a triathlon program and they've won big.
Yes. They were competing in the national championship in their first year as a program, right? And so I think what he's done from a top to bottom TCU athletics department standpoint has been really impressive. And it's come from this place of, first of all, he's a basketball guy, right? So he wants TCU to be competitive in basketball. He hired a guy in Mark Campbell from his part of the country up there in the Northwest. So a little bit of connection there. But the reality is that Jeremiah Zanotti has looked at everything about TCU athletics and said, what can we do to make it better? And how can me saying yes improve the standing of the programs? When you look at beach volleyball and their schedule and how often they fly, or even look at triathlon's schedule and where they have to go for some of these competitions, right? Those are not cheap travel schedules for non-revenue sports. And he says yes every step of the way. And so I think when you look at a coach like Mark Campbell and you say, man, he's turned this program around really quickly, I think there's an opportunity to also credit the person who hired him, just like there's an opportunity to criticize the person that hired a coach when they're not performing well. But we tend to always do the latter and never really the former. So shout out to Jeremiah Zanotti, because I agree with you. Mark Campbell, every interaction that I've had with him, I just am struck by this guy's legitimate. Like, this guy's got it. Whatever it is, he's capable to the max, I think, of getting his team to a place where they are performing at an elite level. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Yes, they're only 4-0 this year. Yes, it's just one win over a ranked team. But I think that the foundation that is being laid by Mark Campbell and his coaching staff deserves a lot of credit for. I mean, this was not supposed to be an overnight turnaround. They were 1-17 in Big 12 play 2 years ago. And so the transformation has happened pretty quickly. A lot of that is because of the transfer portal. A lot of that is because of Mark Campbell, who they've set, I think, 7 records in the last 3 basketball games, by the way. They set 6 against New Orleans a week ago on Sunday. They set another one against Texas State earlier this week with a 59-point win. over the Bobcats, which was a program record for margin of victory. And then they come out tonight and they beat NC State in a game where they did not trail in the second half. Yeah. Right, it got close there, but they did not trail in the entire second half against a top 15 team, which is just so impressive.
Yeah, I'm just super excited about this team and the ceiling. And, as we've talked about multiple times, at some point we anticipate Maddie Shear will come back. To those of you asking relentlessly, we don't know when, and we have gotten no information, but we do.
I can say she started practicing recently.
Okay, that's great.
So progress is happening.
Progress is happening. So we do anticipate getting her back. Agnes is still working her way back into the rotation, and there's still so many pieces on this roster that can be effective. I have zero problem with Campbell basically riding his starters all day on Sunday. Yeah. I mean, that's the right thing to do. They're built for that. But I still think as they get into kind of the grind of, 2 competitive, 2 physical games a week, and he's going to need to be able to go 8 or 9, I do believe that he'll be able to do that without much of a drop-off. And, you start looking ahead to Notre Dame, to South Carolina, to a Big 12 that has, I think, 3 ranked teams right now. It's not going to get easier. This team is going to have to prove itself. And one of the things I love that Mark Campbell said today is that at some point, if you do what you want to do, you become the hunted. Mm-hmm. He said, right now, we're hunting. And they got a big one on Sunday against NC State. But the more they win, if they end up ranked as they should, on Monday in the AP poll, now all of a sudden there's a target on your back that hasn't existed in Fort Worth in several years. And so this team seems to crave that. I don't think they like being the underdog. Haley Van Lith certainly doesn't talk like an underdog in post-game press conferences, and I love that about her. I think that they are built to handle the pressure of having a target on their back. They just want the opportunity to get that target, and they are getting very, very close to it, if not already establishing it.
Absolutely, they are. Let's talk about the other side of basketball for TCU, because I think there are some things that we talked about in the preseason that we saw on full display against Michigan on Friday. TCU goes to Ann Arbor for first of all, their earliest true road game in a season since 1998.
Wow.
Their first, I think it was, I did the math, I think it was their 6th true non-conference road game in the last 4 seasons as well. They traveled to Michigan, who is supposed to be much better this year. Dusty May, their first-year head coach, who came from FAU. He had the Owls in the Final Four a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. Got a really good portal class in from Michigan. They start 2 guys who are 7 foot or taller. They start a point guard that is 6'5". And what did we talk about, Melissa, about TCU basketball all offseason?
There was no depth of size.
They're a little small. They're a little small. And the point guards are small. The bigs are small. And they're going to be challenged when they're facing teams that are much more physically bigger than them.
And that was exasperated Friday night because Ernest Uday didn't play.
Ernest Uday. He hurts his back against Texas State, manages to finish that game, but he took 2 really hard falls against Texas State, one of which he was called for a foul on, which was just obnoxious. He gets up for a rebound, gets his legs cut out from under him, and somehow that's his fault. But he came up from that one holding his back a little bit. He stayed down in the second half after a fall where the player who fouled him was assessed with a flagrant 1 for kind of smacking him and throwing him to the ground. He was not there. So you're starting against 2 7-footers, a center and true freshman David Punch, who is on a good day 6'8", 6'9", and TCU's size kind of betrayed them a little bit in this game. They were out-rebounded 41-29. They were out-rebounded in the final 2.5 minutes of the game 7-1, which was kind of crucial because TCU kept this close for the majority of the game. They got really good play from Trey White, who scored 16 points again. He shot the ball really well. Frankie Collins didn't shoot the ball well, but was defensively and was kind of harassing Michigan's guard. He also had a highlight dunk.
Top number one
Sports Center dunk. He had a decent night. Brendan Wenzel finally got going from 3, which we've been waiting to see. He hit 5 of 9 from there. And so TCU had a bad shooting night overall. They shoot 34.4% from the floor as a team. They shoot 26.3% from three-point range, and they still find themselves in a 2-possession game in the last 2 minutes without their starting center. And so you don't really want to find too many silver linings at this point. But you look at this loss to Michigan and you say, would Ernest have been 12 points of a difference? Would he have made up the 12-point margin of loss? Probably not. But I went into this game thinking, first of all, that Ernest was going to play. And I think my prediction on Horned Frog Blitz was somewhere around like Michigan 78, TCU 73. And I think Ernest gets you to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan's probably a tournament team in the Big Ten this year. I think they're pretty good. And this is an early season test on the road for your program, figuring out how guys react on the road, how they respond to each other on the road. Obviously, you don't want to lose a basketball game like this, but I don't see this as the end of the world that maybe some other TCU fans see it as, just because it's year 9 of Jamie Dixon and he lost another game, right? Like I'm not there. I'm not there. I probably won't ever be there, but it's disappointing to lose. You didn't have your starting center. This is what you kind of game planned for coming into the season, because you knew you were undersized. This was they had the opportunity to maybe go get another big man. They took a fifth wing in the portal instead, right? They got Vishawn Alette, or I think it was R.J. Jones who's redshirting, instead of going and getting a true backup center to Ernest Udeh. That was the decision that you made, and now you got to live with it. And they lived with it and came up short on Friday night.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to critique J.B. Dixon, then, critique the fact that they didn't have a backup plan, because we've seen Udeh get hurt before, right? Like there's now it's a back injury, and we don't know what the extent of the injury is. We hope he'll be back soon. I mean, he felt very close to me one of those times, and he got up very much grimacing. But you hope it's nothing serious. Like I said, he did play the rest of that game. These are the things I will take away. Is I think everything we were worried about TCU basketball prior to the season came to roost Friday night, right? There are weaknesses on this roster. Neither you or me went into this season thinking this is a tournament team. I think that we knew that this is young. It's a new group. You have basically an entire new team of players. And then if you take Udeh, the one returning player, out of the mix, then things look rough. But the thing I appreciated about what happened Friday is this team did not roll over. They did not stop playing hard. There's a lot of leadership. There is a lot of effort from this group. And I think that it did kind of just put a little exclamation point on TCU basketball is who we think they are so far at this point in the season. And that's okay. I commend Jamie Dixon for going to Ann Arbor. I don't care, who the names in the jerseys are, playing in an environment with so much history that's so far away is hard. It's difficult. I'm not going to write it off. You're going to have to win in a lot more difficult environments than that if you want to be competitive in the Big 12. But I think they showed enough sparks and enough signs of light. And like you said, this was a 2-possession game until the final 2 minutes, when Michigan just kind of ran away from them, which is what good teams do on their home court. So I'm not going to hit the panic button. I think that there are things to watch. We've seen some signs of this against Texas State and some of their, lesser competition. So they took a massive jump in competition, and they got beat. So I'd like to see them clean some of those things up. They're, like I said earlier, they're gonna have to shoot the ball well to beat good teams. They didn't shoot the ball well. They lost to what we think will be a good team. I agree with you. I think Michigan, Dusty May is one of the elite coaches in college basketball. He did a heck of a job in the portal. We kind of see what he did at Michigan is kind of what's happening in Fort Worth with the women's team. I mean, you go out, you find great players that fill needs, and you build a cohesion around that. So I'm not, if my expectations going into the year were higher, I'd probably feel a lot differently. But I think that this is a great growth moment for this team. I want to see how they respond on Tuesday night against a lesser opponent, and I think that they will. And that's what you need to see out of this group at this point in the season.
Yeah, Alcorn State comes to town on Tuesday. Take care of business there, right? And look, I think part of what makes this TCU team a threat is their athleticism and their ability to score from a variety of different angles. Vishawn Alette, I think he would be the first to say he had a pretty bad game. On Friday night. He was 2 of 9 from the floor. He only scored 6 points. He had, I believe it was 3 turnovers to lead the Frogs. They only had 12. So, decent ball security, but he had a quarter of the team's turnovers and missed all 4 of his 3-point attempts. I don't know that we're going to see that many nights where that's what he's producing. Maybe the turnovers, but the shooting, I think, will normally be much better than that. Frankie Collins was only 3 of 12. And so a lot of that has to do with Michigan's length. They're the 6th tallest team in the country, which is what's a note that was made on the broadcast. But like you said, you're going to have to play a lot tougher, a lot more physical basketball in the Big 12, day in and day out. So this is a nice little preview of what life could be like in the Big 12, especially if you don't have Ernest Uday. So getting Uday back, I think, will help with the rebounding, help with the physicality. And that, frankly, I didn't think Punch and Diallo were too big of an issue.
No.
On Friday, I thought both freshmen played well. Punch finished with 6 points, 7 rebounds. He only had 2 turnovers in 27 minutes. That's the most he's played early on. I thought he looked great. Diallo played 13 minutes, 2 points and a board. Got out of position defensively a little bit. Danny Wolf, the big center transfer from Yale, ate him up a little bit a couple times. But, that's a guy that has not played a lot of basketball.
It should be redshirting.
Yeah, really, truly should be redshirting. But I liked what I saw from both the TCU's young centers. I think that position long term is going to be in decent shape. But you can't go on the road and shoot 5 of 19 from 3 and expect to come away with a win when you're already missing your starting center.
I think we should also just schematically what TCU did defensively in the first half. Now, some of these were unforced errors, but they forced 16 first half turnovers, I think it was.
Yes.
And that's what kept them in the game.
17 first half points off 16 first half turnovers.
Yeah, and if they had converted at a higher level, now you're looking at maybe you're in the lead going into the break. Maybe you have an opportunity to get a win and pull away from them. But again, they just shot the ball so poorly. But I think, again, what we're seeing is that Jamie Dixon has a really good pulse on this team. Even though they're not the biggest, they do have great length and athleticism. They're using that defensively really well. He's I think every preseason for 9 years, he's talked about we need to be better defensively. We need to be better defensively. This looks like the first team in a couple of years that has a chance to be the defensive team he wants, or at least that he's willing to accept while still playing the brand of basketball that he's instituted in order to be successful. So they can play fast. They can turn you over. They get up and down the floor. If they had shot, like you said, just what we anticipate their averages to be, you probably go into the break with a lead, and then maybe Michigan's pressing a little bit more. They cut their turnovers way down in the second half, but it could have changed the momentum. So I said, I want to win. I don't want to lose. I'm not happy to lose to a Michigan team that we still don't know a whole lot about. But at the end of the day, I didn't watch this game. I wasn't angry. I was disappointed at the end of it because I thought that there were opportunities to get wins. But I think you can use this as a building block tool for the team that you're going to try to be. This team finishing where they were predicted in the preseason would be about right, which was 10th, I think, 9th or 10th, 7th,
I believe.
7th of what do we have? 16 teams. I have no idea how many teams. It's too many. But if they can finish in the top half of this conference, that's a win. When you look at what their schedule lays out and what the teams and the rest of the conference is doing, if you can beat the 500 record that we're all so sick of, if TCU basketball reaches 500 in Big 12 play this year, I think that's a win. So I'm trying to just kind of hedge my bets, I guess, a little bit. At this point, I have nothing but extraordinary expectations for the women's team. And the men's team, I'm like, this is more of a rebuild. This is more of a growth year. We need to see a foundation put in for a team that can go out and be really competitive a year from now. I just want them to be in games this year. And I was happy with the effort, the energy level I saw on Friday night.
8 players are sophomores or younger on the roster. That's tells you a lot of what you need to know about the men. They play Alcorn State on Tuesday at 7. The women play Incarnate Word at noon on Thursday for their annual field trip game. A lot of high pitched screaming is going to be a part of that one. Sedona at the post game on Sunday put her face in her hands when she learned that was their next basketball game. So I think that it's safe to say that she at least has moved on from the NC State win and is now starting to mentally prepare for Incarnate Word.
Which might be tougher, honestly. It might take more out of her.
Truly. And then they host Idaho State on Sunday. But before that happens, TCU soccer is going to be playing another game because they came out of their first game in the NCAA tournament with a 1-0 win over SFA on Friday night. This happened. This game kicked off kind of right as the men's game was ending. I was taking care of the men's basketball game for Horned Frog Blitz. You were out at the soccer game in the sub-50 temperatures. I stepped out of my door. I thought about coming. I was like, pretty good opportunity to come watch the team play. And then it was so cold. And I said, you know what? I'm pretty comfortable here. I'll throw it on the TV and just kind of watch it from afar. So tell me a little bit about this game, because it was 1-0, but it felt at times like, wow, TCU could really be up 4 or 5 goals in this one.
Well, and they had some great opportunities. I have to give, first of all, just incredible props to the SFA goalie who played out of her gourd Friday night. I have not seen Seven Castaigne miss a penalty kick, I think, since before she was born. And the goalie just made an incredible stop on her PK in the first half. I mean, there were so many opportunities. TCU got great looks. They dominated the possession. Eric Bell talked about just, securing and valuing the ball in his media availability earlier in the week. They did a great job of that. They were getting to the middle of the field. They were all over the place. They were sharing the ball. They had so many good looks at the goal. This SFA goalie was just absolutely out of her mind. She had a great game, especially in the first half. They just could not get a ball past her despite having some great looks. But I think much like the Kansas game, and we heard this a lot after the game from Eric Bell as well, is that you're going to get a lot of kind of junk defenses in the first round of the NCAA tournament. That's what the players said. That's what Coach Bell said. That's kind of what they saw against Kansas as well, is that people are going to pack the box. They're going to make things difficult. Caroline Kelly and Bella DiOrio draw a ton of attention on the outside, and they just were not going to let those players beat them. And to their credit, I mean, they really mucked things up. They made things really difficult. And even when TCU did get those good looks, their goalie really stepped up and made plays. So the winning goal comes on a Caroline Kelly penalty kick. I think it was AJ Hennessy that drew that one in the box. And Caroline Kelly is just on an absolute heater. Her, Bella DiOrio, and Seven Castaigne led the Big 12 in goal scoring this year. With I think 13, 12, and 11, or now Caroline has 13, so 13, 13, and 12 or something, or 11 or something. I have no idea, too many. But just, I mean, there's so many weapons on this team, and so it was a frustrating game. But the sense I got in the post-game interviews was not that this team was disappointed that they only scored 1 goal. Eric Bell did say he wished he could have scored more for the fans because there's a great crowd out there that braved the cold, unlike you. Just wait till how cold it's going to be when you don't even have the facial hair to protect you. But that's a problem for another day.
I'm never going outside again.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's all indoor sports after Saturday, so you'll be fine. But yeah, so I think that they were happy to get the win. It's just kind of survive and advance to get out of that first round, and now they go to Tallahassee and they'll face Penn State in their next game, and likely waiting for them if they are to knock off Penn State is Florida State, who just happens to be the defending national champion. This team is not afraid. Eric Bell said on Wednesday that if you want to win a national championship, if you want to get to a Final Four, you got to beat these teams at some point anyways. So might as well just get it out of the way early. And I think they have the right attitude. And you clipped this and posted it. But I asked Seven Castaigne what the ceiling of this group is. And she very confidently said, I think we can play in the Final Four. I think we can be a Final Four team. She said nobody plays soccer like us, and I don't think that's an overstatement. There's not a lot of teams in NCAA soccer that have 3 double-digit goal scorers. That just doesn't happen very often. And so there's so many weapons. There's so many great players on this team. And then we've seen these freshmen, Evie Baker, Morgan Brown, and Cameron Patton, who's quickly becoming like one of my favorite athletes at TCU right now because she's 5'3". She plays like she's 6'3". Teams very much target her when she has the ball because she's so small. And that kid she will cut you and not feel badly about it. She plays so physical and so tough. She's a lot of fun to watch, and she's become a huge part of what they're doing offensively and defensively too. So I'm going to be interested to see. They play Friday against Penn State. I believe it's at like 1:30, 1 o'clock. Yeah, 1:30 Central Time. Penn State's going to play that Big Ten style of soccer, which is a little bit slower. TCU speed and aggressiveness will be an interesting counter to that. So I'm anxious to see them play. I'll have that on. I have a half day at work, so it'll be perfect. I can come home and turn that on TV. But I like their odds. I don't know a whole lot about Penn State, but I really like TCU's chances against just about anybody, and if they can advance past the Nittany Lions and play Florida State, we could be looking at an all-timer.
I had like 4 things I wanted to say in the middle of that, so I'm just going to say them all right now.
My bad. got
many
excited.
many players consider themselves to be Swiss Army knives. Cam Patton is more just a knife. Sierra McClure is the goalkeeper for SFA. She had a career high 10 saves. She had 4 in the first 28 minutes, and guess what? She's a freshman.
Oh my God!
So I'm sure her phone is ringing off the hook right now. I would not be surprised if she wound up in the transfer portal. I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up in the transfer portal this offseason. Just saying, that's the nature of the beast these days. Don't get mad at me. Don't kill the messenger. But if Sierra McClure is playing a level up next year, don't be surprised by that. She had a fantastic game. Yes, 1:30 on Friday, November 22nd against Penn State. They won their tournament opener 8-1, I believe. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup. And then, yes, TCU has already seen this Florida State team. They played them in an exhibition before the season started. It didn't go very well. I think Florida State scored 5 goals in the first 20 minutes, and then TCU shut them out for the last 40. But this is an opportunity to maybe get back at a team that kind of whooped you before the season even started this year. Yes, defending national champs, but yes, Eric Bell is also right. You got to play them at some point if you want to win it all. And why not in 2 games after beating Penn State?
Agreed. Sorry, I didn't take a breath.
It's okay.
No.
Appropriate times. You were rolling.
Yeah,
never walk away from the table when you're on a heater.
Yeah, I'm still, like I've been saying all season, I came into this year not knowing a whole lot about the nuances of the game of soccer, and I'm just not claiming to be an expert, but I have really grown to love watching this TCU soccer team play, and I think I'm learning a little bit. Eric Bell hasn't rolled his eyes at me in a post-game presser in so long.
That's a win.
That's a win. He's great too. You get another person like Mark Campbell, just program builders, culture builders, community builders. He's got the same thing. He brought in a lot of players who were really good players at their previous institution and said, you're just going to be another player here. Will you do that? And they share the ball so well. The Caroline Kelly could have gone anywhere probably. And she came in and she's bought in. And she comes off the bench. Yeah. Like she comes off the bench most days. It's unbelievable. So I do need to say one more thing.
Yes, go for it.
Lauren Memley is not. We need to be talking about her. Her play through the Big 12 tournament. Her play last night. She is one of the very few 4-year seniors on this team, and she has been exceptional. When the lights have been the brightest, she's really been a stalwart for that team in the middle of the field, and she's great. So, yeah, Penn State will be tough, but I'm not going to bet against this TCU team.
Let's whip around just to kind of close out here and look at scores from across the conference football-wise on Saturday, because TCU didn't play, but every other team except for, 3 other teams didn't play. Why is it saying, there, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and UCF also didn't play. But let's jump through some of these really quickly. Arizona knocks off Houston in Arizona. That's TCU's upcoming opponent. They win 27-3. A nice, thorough beating of the Cougars. Noah Fafita throws for 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Tet McMillan has 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown in what seems like a kind of quiet night for him. But the story there is Arizona's defense, which had not been able to stop anybody at all, kind of shutting down Houston. Colorado treats Utah like Jake Paul treated Mike Tyson on Saturday night, just absolutely wailing on a team that was overmatched and probably shouldn't even have been there because they're so beat up and hurt. Colorado wins 49-24. Travis Hunter should win the Heisman, Melissa. That was solidified for me on Saturday. I was kind of going back and forth between him and Ashton Jeanty, the Boise State running back, just because Jeanty's having a fantastic year. But Travis Hunter had, 5 catches for 55 yards. He had, I believe, 4 passes defended. He had an interception. I think he might have had 2 interceptions. He's the first player to have that many catches and that many interceptions in the same game since, I think, in like 25 years. Something insane. He's doing things nobody else is doing. And I'm seeing the debate now where it's like, oh, okay, what's he going to play in the NFL, corner or wide receiver? And it's like, guys, he's going to play both. Like a smart coach will say, yeah, go play both. Go do it, because everybody says,
saying he won't get drafted by the Cowboys then if it's
he's going. He's going in the first 4 or 5 picks. Like
Cowboys could be drafted.
God, I wish. Oh yes, Deion Sanders, Cowboys head coach, drafting Travis Hunter and Shedeur. I'll take Shedeur just to have Travis Hunter. Let's see. Baylor knocks off West Virginia in Morgantown. It's the Bears' first win ever in Morgantown. 49
that
to
was
35.
Crazy
And
first
it just
half.
wild end to the first half where I think 24 points were scored in the last 2.5 minutes before halftime in that one. Just insane. Arizona State lays the hammer down on Kansas State and then lets them up off the mat for a little bit, but ends up winning 24 to 14 in Manhattan, which effectively kind of we'll get to it in a second. Arizona State probably one of the favorites now to reach the Big 12 championship game, depending on how some other things shake out. Iowa State takes down Cincinnati 34 to 17 to get to 8-2 as well. They and Arizona State have the same record. Colorado is also 8-2. And Kansas, 3-6 Kansas goes to Provo, beats undefeated BYU 17 to 13. The Cougars fall all the way to 14 in the AP poll that was released today. They are still the highest ranked Big 12 team at 14 in the AP poll, with Colorado sitting there at 16. Big upset. BYU no longer in the driver's seat for the conference championship. And because of that loss, Melissa, here's a fun fact that I want to leave you with. TCU, not eliminated from the Big 12 championship yet.
So crazy. If they had
Not
just
eliminated.
beat Houston, Jamie, if we had just beat Houston.
Not just beat Houston. If you beat Houston and hold on to a 3-touchdown lead against UCF, then we're legitimate. We're talking about 8-2 TCU along with those other 8-2 teams.
But just beat Houston, and it's not unrealistic. Look, I want to say two things. I want to say, number one, BYU's been playing with fire all season, and at some point their luck ran out.
Shame on everyone who tried to compare them to 22 TCU.
Yeah, they did have a little bit of that magic and that luck, but you know they've been playing with fire, and I love the BYU, but that kind of came up to bite them, where you need a quarterback that can be accurate in those moments. And shout out to Kansas for turning it around too. Leopold's kept those guys on the boat, which is impressive. And then now I guess they're technically still in control if they just have one conference loss, so their path to the Big 12 championship is still pretty clear, as long as they can bounce back and win. I ate crow over on Blue Sky the other day. Deion Sanders has Colorado rolling, and that is a good football team. Their defense has improved dramatically over the course of the season. Their offensive line has been good more often than it's been bad. It's been one or the other. It has never just been okay. It is very good or very bad. There's no in between. And Shooter, I have no idea what kind of pro prospect he is, but he's a heck of a college quarterback. And like you said, Travis Hunter is, to me, the best player in college football. So, I was talking to somebody in the Big 12 world of affairs, and I just kind of said, like, we have to acknowledge that the best thing for this conference from an eyeball perspective is Colorado and BYU in the Big 12 championship. Like, that's the biggest win the Big 12 can get. Because BYU travels, we all know that they have a massive fan base, and they pay attention, and they travel and they spend. And Colorado would draw national attention in a way that no other program in this conference can right now, just to be frank and honest. So I'm glad that Colorado, I have mixed feelings about Colorado being good, but if they're going to be a Big 12 contender, I'm glad that they're a good football team. And I give a ton of credit to, give a ton of credit to Deion Sanders, who not only has done a heck of a job building that program, but he's built a staff that has made this team better throughout the course of the year, and deserves a ton of praise for that.
Yes, fully agree. Just a reminder, he wanted the TCU job. And that's going to do it for this episode of Frogs Insider. She is Melissa Treebwasser. I am Jamie Plunkett. We will be back later this week with an Arizona preview, getting back into the full swing of things here. So we will talk to you then. Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.